The council ship was massive. It hung in the darkness above Earth, like a second moon, its surface covered in lights that pulsed with alien colors. Haiyan Wu stood at the window of the human shuttle, watching the enormous vessel grow larger as they approached. He wore a simple gray suit, the official uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. His hands were steady, but his heart beat fast. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. The airlock opened, and Haiyan Wu stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were made of something that looked like crystal, but felt warm to the touch. Lights moved beneath the surface, like fish swimming in water. 2 alien guards waited for him. They were tall, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. They said nothing, just turned and began walking. Haiyan Wu followed. The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above. 12 platforms floated in a circle, each one holding a different alien species. Haiyan Wu had studied their images, but seeing them in person was different. One looked like living stone, its body covered in glowing cracks. Another was made of blue gas that somehow held a shape. A third had too many eyes and limbs that bent in wrong directions. At the center of the circle stood the largest platform. On it sat Vox Dai, the High Arbiter of the Galactic Council. He was 4 meters tall, covered in dark scales that reflected no light. His eyes were pure white, without pupils. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. "Human," Vox Dai said, "you stand before the Galactic Council, the oldest and greatest alliance in the known universe. For 10,000 years, we have maintained order among the stars. We have ended wars, settled disputes, and brought peace to 1,000 worlds." Haiyan Wu bowed slightly, the way he had practiced. "The people of Earth are honored to meet you." "Your honor is irrelevant," Vox Dai replied. "You are here to receive our judgment. Your species has achieved faster than light travel. This means you are now part of the galactic community, and all members of our community must pay tribute." A holographic display appeared in the air between them. Numbers and images scrolled past, too fast for Haiyan Wu to read. But he didn't need to read them. He had been told what the council would demand. "Earth will provide 70% of all refined metals," Vox Dai continued. "This includes iron, copper, titanium, and all rare earth elements. You will also surrender complete access to your military technology. Our scientists will study your weapons, your ships, your defense systems. Finally, you will provide 1 million soldiers. They will serve in our border legions for 100 years. Haiyan Wu kept his face calm. Inside, he felt anger rising. 1 million people, taken from their families for a century. Most would die before they saw Earth again. "These terms are not negotiable," Vox Dai said. "Every species that enters the stars must contribute to the greater order. Some pay with resources, some with knowledge, some with blood. Earth will pay with all 3. Around the circle, the other council members watched in silence. Haiyan Wu could feel their eyes on him. They expected him to beg, to plead for better terms, to offer something else instead. That was what every other species had done. "I need to speak with my government," Haiyan Wu said. His voice was steady. "This decision affects billions of people. I cannot make it alone." Vox Dai leaned forward. "You have 30 days. That is standard for all new species. Use this time to prepare your tribute. Any delay will be seen as rebellion. Any rebellion will be met with total annihilation. We have destroyed 23 species who refused our terms. Earth will not be the 24th. The platform beneath Haiyan Wu's feet began to move. It carried him back toward the exit. As he left, he heard Vox Dai speaking to the other council members. Another primitive world brought to heel. They always submit in the end. The shuttle ride back to Earth felt longer than the trip up. Haiyan-Wu sat in silence, thinking. The Council was powerful. Their fleet numbered in the millions of ships. They controlled resources from 10,000 worlds. They had technology that Earth couldn't match. But there was something in Vox Thay's voice. Something that bothered him. The High Arbiter had sounded bored. Like this was routine. Like humanity was just another weak species that would do as they were told. Back on Earth, Haiyan-Wu went straight to the United Earth Assembly building in Geneva. The Great Hall was full. Every nation had sent representatives. President Dayun sat at the head of the table, her face grim. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had led Earth through the Unification Wars and the first contact with alien life. Now she faced the hardest decision of her career. "They want to bleed us dry," said Defense Minister Tae Young. He was a big man with scars on his hands from his time as a soldier. 70% of our metals means shutting down half our factories. Our economy will collapse. The military technology is worse, added Admiral Su Bin. She commanded Earth's defense fleet, 12 ships that could travel faster than light. If they learn how our weapons work, we'll have no advantage. No way to protect ourselves. And the million soldiers, said Representative Bora quietly. She was young, the daughter of farmers. That's someone's child, someone's parent. We'd be selling our own people. President Diyun looked at Haiyan-Wu. What did you see up there? Haiyan-Wu thought carefully before answering. I saw power. Ancient power. They've been doing this for 10,000 years. But I also saw arrogance. They think we're weak. They think we'll surrender because everyone else has. Maybe everyone else was smart, said Finance Minister Young Soo. Maybe they understood that fighting is suicide. Or maybe they didn't have a choice, said a new voice. Everyone turned. Dr. G1 entered the room. She was the head of Earth's Advanced Research Division. She carried a data pad. I need to show you something. She activated the pad, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the Council ship, but with layers of data overlaid on the image. We've been scanning their vessel since it arrived. Their technology is impressive, but it's also old. Very old. They haven't innovated in centuries. Everything they have is based on designs from thousands of years ago. So? Asked Taeyang. So they're predictable, G1 said. And predictable systems can be beaten. I think we have an option they won't expect. President Daeyun stood up. Everyone out except the Security Council. Haiyan-Wu, you stay too. We have 30 days to make a decision. Let's make it count. As the room cleared, Haiyan-Wu looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere up there, the Council waited. They expected submission, fear, desperation. But Earth had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. Humanity hadn't conquered its own world by giving up when things looked impossible. The 30 days were going to be very interesting. The 30 days passed quickly. Earth's cities buzzed with activity. Ships launched from spaceports every hour, carrying cargo into orbit. The Council fleet watched from a distance, counting the vessels, assuming they carried tribute. They didn't know what was really happening. On the final day, thousands of ships gathered around Earth. They came from all over the galaxy, representatives from the tributary species. These were the races that had already submitted to the Council, the ones who paid tribute every year. They came to watch humanity bend the knee. Some felt pity. Others felt satisfaction that they wouldn't be alone in their servitude anymore. Haiyan-Wu rowed the shuttle back to the Council ship. This time, he wasn't alone. Captain Su Bin sat beside him, wearing her military uniform. On his other side sat Dr. Jae-hoon, a xenobiologist who had spent years studying alien cultures. All three were calm. Too calm for people about to surrender their world. The council chamber was even more crowded than before. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the floating platforms. They whispered among themselves, making bets on how quickly humanity would submit. The council members sat on their platforms, radiating confidence. Voxthai's white eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Human ambassador," Voxthai's voice boomed. 30 days have passed. You will now present your tribute. We have prepared collection vessels to receive your metals. Our technicians are ready to analyze your technology. And we have transport ships waiting to take your soldiers to their training camps. Haiyan Wu stepped forward. The chamber fell silent. Everyone waited for him to speak. They expected a long speech about how Earth had no choice, about how they would comply with the Council's demands, about how they hoped for Mercy Dot instead. Haiyan Wu said one word: no. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then chaos erupted. The translator systems went wild, repeating the word in 1,000 languages. The tributary representatives gasped. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others looked terrified, knowing what came next. Voxthai's scales darkened. Your translator has malfunctioned. Repeat your response. No. Haiyan Wu said again, louder this time. Earth will not pay tribute. We will not surrender our resources. We will not give you our technology. We will not send our people to die in your wars. The answer is no. The High Arbiter rose from his platform. He seemed to grow larger, his presence filling the entire chamber. You do not understand the consequences of refusal. In our 10,000 years of rule, 23 species have said no. All 23 are now extinct. Their worlds are dust. Their names are forgotten. We understand perfectly, Captain Subin said, stepping forward. You'll order your fleet to destroy Earth. You'll make an example of us. You'll show the galaxy what happens to species that refuse to obey. Precisely, Voxthai said. You have 1 hour to reconsider. After that, we will reduce your world to... Actually, Dr. Jae-hoon interrupted. We have something to show you first. He held up a small data chip. This contains information we gathered during the 30 days. We thought you might want to see it before you make any decisions. Voxthai gestured, and the chip was brought to him by a floating drone. He inserted it into his platform's computer system. The holographic displays around the chamber lit up. Data began streaming across the dot at first. Voxthai looked confused. Then his white eyes widened. Around the chamber, council members began to react with alarm. The data showed detailed maps of their homeworlds, population centers, military installations, resource deposits. But that wasn't the worst part. The chip also contained the locations of their hidden colonies, the secret worlds where each council species kept backup populations in case of disaster. These locations were the most closely guarded secrets in the galaxy. How did you get this? Voxthai demanded. We took it, Haiyan Wu said simply. During the 30 days, your quantum encrypted networks, your secure communication channels, your classified databases. We broke into all of them. Impossible, said one of the other council members, the being made of living stone. Our encryption is perfect. It would take 1,000,000 years to crack. Dr. Jae-hoon smiled. That's because you don't think like us. See, most species develop computers and then tried to secure them. Humans developed computers and immediately tried to break them. We've spent 100 years learning how to hack our own systems. When we found yours, well, they were easy by comparison. Captain Subin activated her own datapad. We also have ships. Lots of ships. They're positioned near every council homeworld, every major military base, every important station. You can't see them because we have stealth technology you don't know about. But they're there. New images appeared on the displays. They showed Council military vessels, but with strange overlays. Computer code flowing through their systems. Control pathways being mapped. Weapons systems being analyzed. Your fleet is impressive, Subin continued. Millions of ships. Thousands of years of technological advancement. But there's a problem. All your ships talk to each other through quantum networks. Networks we now control. With one command, we could turn your entire fleet against itself. The chamber erupted again. This time, it wasn't confusion, but panic. The tributary representatives looked shocked. The council members were shouting at each other, demanding to know how this had happened. Boxthai's voice cut through the noise. You would not dare. You are one primitive species. We are 12 ancient civilizations. Even with your tricks, you cannot defeat us all. You're right, Haiyan Wu agreed. In a fair fight, you'd crush us. But here's what you don't understand about humanity. We didn't survive on our world by being the strongest or the fastest. We survived by being smart, by adapting, by finding weaknesses and exploiting them. Jae-hoon stepped forward. Let me explain what makes humans different. Most species evolved on peaceful worlds. You had time to grow, to develop philosophy and art. You built civilizations on cooperation and trust. Humanity evolved on what we call a death world. Everything on Earth tried to kill us. The weather, the predators, the diseases, even other humans. We spent 100,000 years learning how to fight, how to deceive, how to win at any cost. When we developed technology, Subin added, we didn't use it just for exploration. We weaponized everything. Every tool, every system, every network. Because on Earth, the species that didn't weaponize things went extinct. Haiyan Wu pulled up another display. But the really interesting thing we learned during these 30 days wasn't about your technology. It was about your politics. The display showed communication logs, secret messages between council members. Your tribute system isn't about protecting the galaxy. It's about control. The border wars you send soldiers to fight, they don't exist. You made them up. The resources you collect, they go to your elite, not to any common good. You've been running a protection racket for 10,000 years. The tributary representatives began shouting, some in anger, some in disbelief. But Haiyan Wu could see that many of them had suspected the truth. They just hadn't been able to prove it. Boxthai's scales turned almost black. This changes nothing. You have revealed your hand. Now we will destroy you and take your technology by force. Go ahead and try, Haiyan Wu said. But know this, we've sent copies of all this data to every species in the galaxy. If Earth falls, everyone will know the truth about the Council. And we've also sent them something else. The encryption keys to your networks. The schematics for our stealth technology. The methods we use to break your systems. If you destroy us, you'll face 1,000 rebellions. Your empire will tear itself apart. The High Arbiter stared at Haiyan Wu. For the first time in 10,000 years, someone had cornered the Galactic Council. They couldn't attack without destroying themselves. They couldn't retreat without looking weak. They were trapped. So what do you want? Boxthai asked quietly. Haiyan Wu smiled. I'm glad you asked. Because we have a proposal. The council chamber remained silent. Every eye focused on Haiyan Wu. He stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and he looked completely calm. Captain Subin and Dr. Jae-hoon flanked him, equally composed. The tributary representatives leaned forward, desperate to hear what humanity would say next. We don't want to destroy the council, Haiyan Wu began. Despite everything you've done, you did bring stability to the galaxy. You ended wars. You created trade routes. You made it possible for different species to communicate. Those are good things. Vox Thigh's white eyes narrowed. Then what do you want? We want you to stop lying, Haiyan Wu said simply. We want you to stop pretending that tribute is for everyone's good when it only benefits you. We want you to stop enslaving species under the pretense of protection. And if we refuse? Asked one of the council members, a being that looked like blue gas held together by electromagnetic fields. Then we release everything, Captain Su Ben said. Every secret, every crime, every detail of how you've manipulated the galaxy for 10,000 years. Your empire collapses. Maybe it happens in a week. Maybe it takes a year. But it will happen. You would throw the galaxy into chaos, Mox Thai said. Millions would die in the wars that followed. Maybe, Haiyan Wu admitted. Or maybe something better would emerge. But we're hoping it doesn't come to that. Because we have a better idea. Dr. Jae-hoon activated a new holographic display. It showed a proposed government structure, completely different from the Council's hierarchy. We call it the Galactic Accord. Every species gets equal representation, regardless of age or power. Decisions are made by majority vote, not by decree from above. Military service is voluntary. Resources are traded fairly, not extracted as tribute. Impossible, said another council member, the one that looked like living stone. The galaxy is too big, too diverse. You cannot govern 1,000 species with democracy. There must be order. Why? Asked a new voice. Everyone turned. One of the tributary representatives had spoken. She was from a species that looked almost human, with golden skin and 4 arms. Why must there be your kind of order? My people have paid tribute for 3,000 years. We've sent our children to die in your fake wars. We've watched our world grow poor while yours grow rich. Why can't we try something different? Other tributary representatives began speaking up. A being made of living crystal said his people had suspected the border wars were false, but had no proof. A small creature with many tentacles said her species had nearly gone extinct, paying the tribute the council demanded. The chamber filled with voices, all of them angry, all of them demanding change. Box Thigh raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. His power was still absolute, even if his position was weakening. You speak of democracy and fairness as if they are simple things. But governing requires strength. It requires the will to make hard choices. Your galactic accord would collapse within a year. Maybe, Haiyan Wu said. But shouldn't the species of the galaxy have the right to try? Shouldn't they decide their own futures? They are not capable, Vox Thai said flatly. Most species are weak. They need guidance. They need structure. Without the council, they would destroy themselves. Captain Su Bin laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. That's what every tyrant says. Every king, every emperor, every dictator in history claims they rule for the good of their people. But you know what we learned on Earth? People don't need masters. They need opportunities. And you think you can provide these opportunities? Vox Thigh asked. You, who have barely left your own solar system. You, who have no experience with galactic governance. No, Haiyan Wu said. We can't. But we can provide tools. We can teach other species what we know about information security. We can share our technology. We can help build systems that prevent any one group from becoming as powerful as you are now. Dr. Jae-hoon pulled up more data. For the past 30 days, we haven't just been hacking your networks. We've been talking to your tributary species, asking them what they want, what they need. And you know what we found? Most of them don't want revolution. They don't want chaos. They just want fairness. They want to know that their sacrifices mean something. The holographic display showed survey results from hundreds of worlds. The data was clear. Most species would accept a central government, but only if it served everyone equally. They wanted trade, but fair trade. They wanted security, but not at the cost of their freedom. "This is your proposal?" Voxthai asked. "Dissolve the council that has maintained order for 10,000 years and replace it with this untested dream?" "Yes," Haiyan-Wu said. "And if we refuse?" "Then we fight," Captain Su Bin said. "And maybe we lose. Our technology is good, but you have numbers on your side. You could probably destroy Earth if you're willing to sacrifice half your fleet to do it. But even if you win, you lose. Because every species in the galaxy will know the truth. They'll know you're not protectors. You're parasites." Voxthai was quiet for a long moment. Around him, the other council members whispered among themselves. Some looked angry. Others looked worried. The being made of blue gas seemed to shimmer with uncertainty. Finally, Voxthai spoke. "The council will deliberate. You will wait outside." Jinwoo, Su Bin, and Jae-hoon were escorted from the chamber. They waited in a small room with transparent walls. Through them, they could see the stars. Earth was visible as a small blue dot in the distance. "Do you think they'll agree?" Jae-hoon asked. "I don't know," Haiyan-Wu admitted. "We've backed them into a corner. Cornered animals either surrender or attack." Su Bin checked her datapad. "Our ships are ready. If they choose to attack, we'll make it cost them everything." "I hope it doesn't come to that," Haiyan-Wu said quietly. "A lot of people will die if we're wrong." They waited for 3 hours. Finally, the door opened. A drone floated in, carrying a message. Haiyan-Wu read it, and his face showed nothing. He looked at the others, and nodded. They returned to the council chamber. The atmosphere had changed. The tributary representatives were gathered in clusters, arguing among themselves. The council members sat on their platforms, looking less certain than before. Voxthai stood in the center, his dark scales reflecting the lights from the holographic displays. "The council has made a decision," Voxthai announced. "But first, there will be a vote. For the first time in galactic history, the tributary species will have a voice. They will decide whether to maintain the current system or adopt your galactic accord." Haiyan-Wu felt his heart beat faster. This was more than he'd hoped for. But Voxthai wasn't finished. "However," the High Arbiter continued, "if the vote is to dissolve the council, not all will accept this decision. Some of us believe the old ways are correct. Some of us will not surrender our authority to a democratic system. If your accord passes, there will be those who resist. There will be conflict." "We understand," Haiyan-Wu said. "I do not think you do," Voxthai replied. "You are about to tear apart a government that has existed for 10,000 years. The consequences will echo for millennia. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Haiyan-Wu looked at Su Bin and Jae-hoon. They both nodded. He turned back to Voxthai. "On Earth, we have a saying. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. You made peace impossible when you built your empire on lies. We're offering you a chance to change without bloodshed. That's more than most tyrants get." Voxthai's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Then let the vote begin." The holographic displays lit up. Every species in the chamber was given a choice: maintain the council or adopt the accord. The votes came in quickly. Some species voted immediately. Others took time to deliberate. The tributary representatives watched the numbers climb. It took an hour for all the votes to be counted. When the final number appeared, the chamber erupted in noise. The accord had won, but barely. 52% in favor, 48% against. The galaxy had chosen change, but a large portion wanted things to stay the same. Voxthai looked at the results and then at Hyun Woo. "You have your victory, human. The council is dissolved. The Galactic Accord will take its place." He paused, his white eyes burning with intensity. "But I voted against this decision. And I am not alone." 6 other council members stood up. They represented the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Together, they commanded nearly a third of all military forces. "We reject this vote," Voxthai declared. "We will not surrender our authority to inferiors. We are leaving, and we take our fleets with us. We will establish our own government based on the old principles. And when your accord collapses under its own weakness, we will be waiting to restore proper order." The 7 council members floated toward the exit. As they passed Hyun Woo, Voxthai stopped. "You have made a powerful enemy today, human. We will meet again. And next time, you will not surprise us." Then they were gone, taking their followers with them. Nearly half the ships in orbit departed, heading for the outer regions of known space. 6 months had passed since the vote. The galaxy was a different place now, though whether it was better or worse remained to be seen. The Galactic Accord had established its headquarters on a world called Harmony Prime, chosen because it belonged to no single species and sat at the center of council space. The planet was neutral ground, orbiting a gentle yellow star, with vast oceans and 3 small continents. Hyun Woo stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city below. It had sprung up quickly, a mix of architectural styles from dozens of species. Towers of living crystal stood next to buildings made of metal and concrete. Ships came and went constantly, carrying representatives from hundreds of worlds. The city buzzed with activity and argument and hope. "You should eat something," said a voice behind him. Hyun Woo turned to see Bai-Ora entering with a tray of food. She had been promoted from representative to deputy secretary general. Her job was to manage the daily operations of the Accord, while Hyun Woo handled the bigger political issues. "I'm not hungry," Hyun Woo said. "You haven't eaten in 12 hours. Bai-Ora replied, setting the tray on his desk. "If you collapse from exhaustion, the Accord loses its first secretary general. That would be bad for morale." Hyun Woo smiled despite his fatigue. He sat down and took a bite of the food. It was from earth, rice, and vegetables, prepared the way his mother used to make. "How are the supply negotiations going?" "Slowly," Bai-Ora said. 3 species are fighting over mining rights in the Gamma sector. 2 more are arguing about trade tariffs. And the Kelvin Republic is threatening to leave the Accord if we don't give them a larger military budget. Tell the Kelvin Republic that threatening to leave is not how democracy works." Hyun Woo said tiredly, "They'll get the same budget as everyone else. They won't like that. Nobody likes being told no. But that's the price of equality." Bai-Ora nodded and left. Hyun Woo returned to the window. In the distance, he could see ships from the Accord Defense Fleet on patrol. Captain Su Bin commanded them now, having been promoted to admiral after the council fell. The fleet was smaller than the old council armada, but it was composed entirely of volunteers. No one was forced to serve anymore. His communication device buzzed. It was a call from Earth. President Dae-Yoon's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than she had 6 months ago. Leading humanity through the transition had taken its toll on her. "How are things on Earth?" Hyun Woo asked. "Complicated," Dae-Yoon replied. "Half the planet thinks you're a hero. The other half thinks you've dragged us into a war we can't win. The economy is struggling because we're having to support the Accord financially. And there's a protest outside the assembly building right now, demanding we pull out of the agreement. What do you think?" Dae-Yoon was quiet for a moment. "I think we did the right thing. But doing the right thing doesn't mean things get easier. It just means we can live with ourselves." "Any news on the True Council?" That was what Voxthay's group was calling themselves now. The true council, keepers of the old ways, believers in strength and hierarchy. Our intelligence reports they're building up forces in the outer rim, Dayun said. They've been recruiting tributary species who voted against the Accord. Some are joining willingly. Others are being forced. Voxthai is telling them that the Accord will collapse and the old order will return. How many ships? At least 3 million. Maybe more. We can't get accurate counts because they've learned to block our scanning technology. Haiyan Wu felt a chill. 3 million ships was a third of what the old council had commanded. The Accord defense fleet had barely 1 million, and many of those were older vessels from species that had joined late. When will they attack? He asked. Our analysts say within 3 months. Maybe less. They're waiting for us to show weakness, for the Accord to start falling apart on its own. After the call ended, Haiyan Wu sat in silence. The weight of what he'd done pressed down on him. He'd dismantled a 10,000-year-old government. He'd convinced hundreds of species to take a chance on something new. And now war was coming because of it. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Come in, he called. Admiral Su Bin entered, wearing her military uniform. Behind her was Dr. Jae-hoon, and a woman Haiyan Wu didn't recognize. She was tall, with golden skin and forearms. It took him a moment to realize. She was the tributary representative who had spoken up during the vote. Secretary General, Su Bin said formally. This is Ambassador Hai Jin of the Kelvin Republic. She has information you need to hear. Hai Jin bowed in the manner of her people, all forearms crossing over her chest. Thank you for seeing me, Secretary General. I know my government has been difficult lately, but this is more important than our budget disputes. What is it? Haiyan Wu asked. I've been in contact with someone inside the True Council territories, Hai Jin said. A childhood friend who serves in Voxthai's military. He sent me a message 3 days ago. The True Council is planning an attack, but not on the Accord's military forces. Then what? Su Bin asked. Earth, Hai Jin said quietly. They're going to attack Earth directly. Voxthai believes that if he destroys humanity's homeworld, the Accord will lose its symbolic leader. The member species will lose faith, and the whole system will collapse. Haiyan Wu felt his blood turn cold. When? 2 weeks. Maybe less. They're gathering their fleet in the outer rim and will jump directly to your solar system. They plan to overwhelm Earth's defenses before the Accord fleet can respond. Dr. Jae-hoon pulled up a star map. It's a smart strategy, tactically. Earth is far from Harmony Prime. By the time we get word of the attack and send reinforcements, it would be over. They could destroy the planet and retreat before we engage them. How many ships are we talking about? Haiyan Wu asked. My contact says at least 2 million, Hai Jin replied. Maybe more. Voxthai has been saving his best forces for this strike. He wants to make an example of humanity, to show the galaxy what happens to species that challenge the old order. Su Bin was already working on her datapad, calculating response times and military options. Her face was grim. We have about 50,000 ships in Earth's defensive fleet. We could recall more from patrol duties, maybe bring it up to 100,000. But against 2 million, those numbers don't matter. We'd be slaughtered. What about the Accord fleet? Haiyan Wu asked. We have 900,000 ships available, Su Bin said, but they're spread across known space. It would take a week to gather them all at Earth. Voxthai will strike before then. The room fell silent. They all understood what this meant. Earth was going to be attacked, and there was no way to defend it adequately. Billions of people would die. Humanity's homeworld would burn, and the Accord would probably collapse, just as Voxthai predicted. There has to be something we can do, Baora said. She had entered during the conversation and stood near the door. "We can't just let this happen." "We could evacuate," Jae-hoon suggested. "Get as many people off-world as possible before the attack." "And go where?" Hyun-woo asked. "We'd need thousands of transport ships. It would take months to evacuate even a fraction of Earth's population. And the moment we start evacuating, Vox Tai will know we discovered his plan. He'll attack immediately." "So we fight," Subin said. "We take every ship we can gather and make our stand at Earth. We might lose, but we'll make it cost them. Maybe enough that they'll think twice about attacking other Accord worlds." "No," Hyun-woo said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. "We're not going to fight a defensive battle. We're going to do what humanity does best." "What's that?" Hyjin asked. Hyun-woo smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who had just realized how to turn a disaster into an opportunity. "We're going to cheat." He activated the holographic display and began drawing on it, sketching out a plan. As he talked, the others began to understand. It was risky. It was audacious. It violated several rules of conventional warfare. But it might work. "That's insane," Subin said when he finished. "Probably," Hyun-woo agreed. "It could backfire completely. We could lose everything. We're going to lose everything anyway if we just sit here and wait for them to attack." Subin looked at the plan again, running calculations in her head. Finally, she nodded. "It's insane, but it might work. When do we start?" "Now," Hyun-woo said. "We have 2 weeks. Maybe less. We need to move fast." Hyjin stepped forward. "My people will help. The Kelvin Republic has ships. Not many, but every vessel counts. Why would you do that?" Hyun-woo asked. "Your government has been threatening to leave the Accord." "My government is made up of politicians," Hyjin said. "They argue about budgets and power, because that's what politicians do. But my people remember what it was like under the Council. We remember paying tribute, sending our children to die in false wars. We don't want to go back to that. If Earth falls, we all fall." Other messages began coming in. Representatives from dozens of species had heard about the threat through the Accord's intelligence network. They were offering ships, supplies, soldiers. Some species that had been arguing about petty disputes suddenly found unity in the face of a common enemy. Hyun-woo watched the messages flood in and felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. The Accord was new and fragile and flawed, but maybe it was stronger than he'd thought. Maybe giving people freedom also gave them something worth fighting for. "Send word to all Accord members," he said. "Tell them Earth needs them. Tell them humanity stood against the Council for them. Now it's time to return the favor." The true Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 2 million ships appeared in space like a swarm of locusts, their hulls reflecting the distant light of the sun. Vox Tai stood on the bridge of his flagship, his white eyes fixed on the blue world that hung in the distance. Earth, the home of the humans who had destroyed everything he'd built. "Deploy the fleet in standard attack formation," he commanded. "We will sweep through their defenses and burn their world. I want nothing left but ash." His officers moved to obey. The massive fleet began organizing itself, preparing for the final jump to Earth orbit. Sensors swept the area, looking for defensive positions. What they found confused them. "High Arbiter," his sensor officer reported. "We're detecting only 70,000 human vessels. They're positioned in orbit around the planet, but their formation is strange. They're not arranged for defense." Vox Tai studied the tactical display. The human ships were scattered, seemingly random in their placement. It looked almost like they were trying to evacuate rather than fight. Perhaps they are fleeing like the cowards they are. No matter. We will destroy them before they can escape. But something bothered him. The humans had proven themselves clever before. Would they really abandon their homeworld without a better plan? He reviewed the intelligence reports again. No sign of the main Accord fleet. No reinforcements incoming. Earth's defense fleet was tiny compared to his armada. Everything suggested an easy victory. Begin the attack, he ordered. The True Council fleet jumped forward, appearing in Earth orbit. Immediately, the human ships opened fire. Missiles and energy weapons lanced through space. Several True Council vessels exploded, but it was like throwing stones at an avalanche. For every ship destroyed, 100 more took its place. Voxthai watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. The humans were fighting well, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. In an hour, maybe less, it would be over. Then something strange happened. The human ships began retreating, but not away from Earth. They were pulling back to specific positions, forming a pattern around the planet. And they had stopped firing their weapons. What are they doing? Voxthai demanded. Before anyone could answer, space itself seemed to shimmer. From behind the moon, from behind Mars, from hidden positions throughout the solar system, ships appeared. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They weren't human vessels. They were ships from every species in the Accord. The Kelvin Republic's golden cruisers. The Harmony Alliance's crystal carriers. Even small species that had only recently joined were there, their modest fleets adding to the growing numbers. How many? Voxthai asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 800,000 vessels, high arbiter. And more are arriving. Voxthai's scales darkened with rage. The humans had baited him. They'd made their homeworld look vulnerable, knowing he couldn't resist the target. And while he'd focused all his forces here, the entire Accord fleet had been hiding, waiting. Now he was surrounded, his fleet caught between Earth's defenses and the Accord armada. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Subin watched the True Council fleet realize their mistake. She opened a communication channel that broadcast to every ship in the system. This is Admiral Subin of the Galactic Accord Defense Fleet. True Council vessels, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that fires will be destroyed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Voxthai's face appeared on every screen. His white eyes burned with hatred. You think you've won, human? You have more ships, but we are better trained. We have more experience. We have 10,000 years of military tradition. Your Accord is a collection of former slaves playing at war. We are warriors. You're bureaucrats who haven't fought a real war in centuries, Subin replied calmly. Your military exists to intimidate, not to fight. But if you want to test that theory, we're ready. Fire when ready. The True Council fleet opened fire. Space erupted with weapons fire from millions of guns. The Accord fleet responded. Immediately. But something was wrong. The True Council ships found their targeting systems failing. Their weapons misfired. Some ships reported that their engines were shutting down randomly. Across the fleet, chaos spread as systems malfunctioned. On Earth, Dr. Jehun sat in a control room filled with human computer specialists. They had spent 2 weeks preparing for this moment. When the True Council fleet had arrived, human hackers had been ready. Using the same techniques they'd used to infiltrate the old Council's networks, they'd attacked the True Council's command and control systems. They couldn't take over the ships completely, not yet. But they could disrupt them, slow them down, make them vulnerable. Keep hitting their communication nodes, Jehun ordered. Don't let them coordinate their attacks. If they can't work together, their numbers don't matter. In space, the battle became a massacre. The True Council ships were powerful individually, but they couldn't coordinate. Meanwhile, The Accord fleet worked together perfectly. Ships from different species covered each other's weaknesses. The Kelvin Republic's powerful shields protected smaller vessels while they made attack runs. The Harmony Alliance's crystal carriers deployed fighter craft that swarmed around larger ships. Human vessels used their stealth technology to appear behind enemy lines and strike command ships. Voxthai watched his fleet falling apart. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. His forces outnumbered the humans 2-1. They should have been winning. But the Accord fleet fought like nothing he'd ever seen. They weren't just individual species working together. They were truly unified, each one trusting the others to do their part. "Fall back," he ordered. "Reform at the rally point and prepare for—" An explosion rocked his flagship. Something had hit them, but sensors showed nothing nearby. Then he saw it on the display. A human stealth ship had appeared right next to them, so close it was almost touching. It fired again, targeting the flagship's engines. Admiral Subin's voice came over the communication channel. "I told you we were ready. Your ship is disabled, Voxthai. Surrender or die. Those are your only options." Voxthai looked around his bridge. Half his officers were dead. Systems sparked and failed. Through the viewports, he could see his fleet in ruins. Of the 2 million ships he'd brought, maybe 1 million remained operational. And they were scattered, disorganized, easy targets for the coordinated Accord forces. He had lost. The realization was like poison. He, who had ruled for 1,000 years, who had commanded the greatest military in the galaxy, had been defeated by species he'd considered inferior. By humans who'd only reached the stars a few years ago. By former slaves who dared to dream of freedom. "I will not surrender to you," Voxthai said. He reached for the control that would destroy his ship, taking everyone on board with him. But before he could activate it, something stopped him. Not physically, but mentally. He felt his mind seize up, unable to move. On the display, he saw Dr. J. Hoon's face. "We anticipated that you might try something dramatic," the human scientist said. "We've taken control of your ship's neural interface. You can't self-destruct. You can't do anything except sit there and accept what's coming." Voxthai felt rage boil inside him, but his body wouldn't respond to his commands. He was a prisoner in his own mind, forced to watch as boarding craft attached to his flagship. He heard the sound of cutting torches as the Accord forces breached his ship. Then his bridge doors opened, and human soldiers entered, weapons ready. They took him without resistance. As they led him away, Voxthai saw his officers being captured too. Some fought and were stunned. Most simply surrendered, knowing the battle was lost. Through the viewport, he watched the remainder of his fleet do the same. Ship after ship powered down its weapons and submitted to Accord control. Days later, Haiyan Wu stood before the newly formed Accord Assembly. The huge chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They had gathered to witness the trial of the true council leaders. Voxthai and his 6 allies stood in restraints at the center of the room. They looked smaller now, less intimidating. Without their power, they were just beings who'd held on to control too long. "You are charged with crimes against peace," Haiyan Wu said. "You attempted to destroy a member world of the Accord. You enslaved species under false pretenses. You manufactured wars to justify your rule. How do you plead?" Voxthai said nothing. His white eyes stared at Haiyan Wu with pure hatred. One of the other former council members, however, spoke. "We did what was necessary to maintain order. The galaxy needs strong leadership. Without us, everything will descend into chaos." "Maybe," Haiyan Wu said, "but that's not your decision to make anymore. The species of the galaxy will decide their own future. And they've decided they don't want leaders who rule through fear and deception." The trial lasted 3 days. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The former council members were given every opportunity to defend themselves. In the end, they were found guilty on all charges. The sentence was exile. They would be sent to a remote world, comfortable but isolated, where they could live out their days without the power they'd once commanded. As guards led them away, Vox Thai finally spoke. "You have not won, human. Your accord will fail. Species are not meant to be equals. The strong always dominate the weak. That is the law of nature. When your experiment collapses, remember that I told you so." "Maybe you're right," Hyun-woo said. "Maybe we will fail. But at least we're trying something different. At least we're giving people a choice." Months passed. The accord stabilized. More species joined, attracted by the promise of fair treatment. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges began. It wasn't perfect. There were still arguments, still conflicts, still species who didn't get along. But they resolved these issues through negotiation and compromise, not through domination. Hyun-woo stood at the same window in his office where he'd stood months before. The city below was bigger now, more diverse. Ships from 1,000 worlds came and went. In the distance, he could see children from different species playing together in a park, their parents watching nearby. It was a small thing, but it meant everything. Ambassador Bo-Ra entered with her usual tray of food. "You need to eat." "I know," Hyun-woo said, taking the tray. "How are the border negotiations going?" "Better. The Kelvin Republic and the Harmony Alliance reached an agreement. No one is threatening to leave the accord this week. That's progress." Bo-Ra stood beside him at the window. "Do you think he was right?" Vox Thai. "Do you think we'll fail?" Hyun-woo thought about that. "Probably. Eventually. Nothing lasts forever. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the point isn't to create something that lasts 10,000 years. Maybe the point is to create something that makes people's lives better right now." That's very philosophical for someone who started a revolution by saying no. Hyun-woo smiled. Sometimes one word is enough. No, we won't submit. No, we won't accept injustice. No, we won't give up. Everything else follows from that. A message appeared on his communication device. It was from Earth. President Da-yoon wanted to talk about the next wave of colonization efforts. 36 species had requested permission to establish communities on Earth, and Earth was requesting technical assistance in return. It was the kind of fair exchange that would have been impossible under the old council. "Back to work," Bayor said. "Back to work," Hyun-woo agreed. As he returned to his desk. He thought about how far they'd come. 6 months ago, humanity had stood before the Galactic Council and refused to pay tribute. That one act of defiance had changed everything. The Council had fallen. The Accord had risen. War had come and been won. And now the hard work of building something better continued. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was theirs. Built by choice, not force. Maintained by cooperation, not domination. And that made all the difference. Outside, the stars shone bright. Among them, 1,000 worlds watched and waited to see if this experiment in freedom would succeed. Only time would tell. But for now, for today, the galaxy had hope. And sometimes hope was enough.